All right, what's going on, guys? So this is officially the last Sunday watch list of 2023. We do have some good setups coming into the new year. Let's get right into it, though, right? Starting off with SPY, right? We had a, let me clear this chart right here for you guys. We had a rising wedge and a bearish divergence. If you guys don't know what a bearish divergence is, I'll explain it right now. But this is a rising wedge. A rising wedge looks like this, and right, it is a bearish chart pattern that when it breaks down, pretty much the target would be the bottom of the wedge, right? Bearish divergence would be when the stock makes a, go to the 4 hour time frame, when the stock makes a higher high, but the RSI makes a lower high. And that is just a bearish divergence, sign of a reversal. And as you guys can see, on Friday, we got some sort of sell-off already, right? So that is something important to pay attention to. If I go to the 15-minute time frame, I want you guys to identify some of these key levels here, starting with this range we were in on SPY. Notice how this range here is from this area to this area. Notice how we reject here on Wednesday, reject here, break above on Thursday. We start to hold that level, but then we finally break below that rising wedge. We even retested pre-market. Notice how we reject this high right here from Thursday, and then we start rejecting back down. We break back below that area, and we go down to the next zone. The next zone is pretty much this area down here that was Friday's high, and then notice how it holds as Wednesday's low here. So it's just from zone to zone, right? We go from zone to zone. And I'm gonna keep this level on watch as well. This Wednesday, last week's Wednesday high, because that is where a lot of sellers stepped in. And notice where we rejected on Friday after we got this big pullback, we rejected right off of that Wednesday high level. So coming into this new week, right? In between 475 to 476.6, I won't be too interested because this can just range in between. Um, but I will be interested if we start to break and use this level as a rejection level for a move back down into Friday's low. But you can see that we have a zone near this area here, pretty much near Friday's zone. Notice how we reject here, then we start to bounce near these areas. So if I highlight it here, you guys will see we have a rejection 1, some bounces here, 2, some bounces over here, 3, more bounces on this side, 4, 5, 6. And then on Friday, we came right into it. We tried breaking below it, but we held that area. So below that area, that is when we can officially start heading down to the next zones. So if we do start breaking below this Friday low, we should start heading down to 473, this 471.60 area. And the overall target is going to be the bottom of the rising wedge, which is down here, right around 468. So you guys should be able to see this on a higher time frame as well. If we do start to sell off, this is the main target down here, 468. So we're just going to take it level to level, right? Watching these break and retest to the downside from zone to zone, right? If I go to the QQ chart, I already have it charted out. You guys will be able to see that 412 to 413 is the all-time high, right? Very similar to SPY. If I go to the 15-minute time frame, you guys will see that last week's price action, this was Wednesday's high. We rejected once, we rejected twice, and then on Thursday we come up and we try to hold that as support, right? That previous resistance tries to hold as support. And then on Friday we break back below it and use it as resistance again. So this is a major level right here, this 411.7 to 411.6. Notice how we got a huge sell-off. We broke below Wednesday's low, which is a huge level right here. This is a really, really big level. You guys can see the multiple reactions off of it here. 1, 2, and then when we break above it right here, rejection 3, break above, retest 4, 5, flush below, retest on Friday 6. Multiple touches off of that zone, right? So we continue to watch that zone either for rejections or a break and retest back to the upside. Now, Friday's low, the SKQ chart looks a little bit better than SPY in my personal opinion. This 408, 407 level, you can see also has multiple reactions, came down, bounced off of it on Friday, bounce off of it the previous weeks here as well, rejected off of it. So that's going to be an important level for downside or a bounce level, depending on how price action reacts here. So we want to see if we break and retest that level for a move to the downside. Very similar to SPY, QQ also had that rising wedge and that bearish divergence. So you can see how we broke out of this rising wedge here, right? And now we are starting to head down to the bottom. The bottom would be 403. If we break below 403, that's we really start heading to 400. But typically, the market has had 9 green weeks in a row. Typically, when that has happened, we follow up with a 3% correction, 3 to 10% correction. I don't know if we'll get a 10% correction, but I do see us potentially start heading down to the bottom of that rising wedge, right? So before we start heading back higher, but of course we have to stay open-minded. For the upside, that is going to be my main level, 410.4.5, let's say, right? This zone right here, that should start heading us back to all-time highs if we do get that. But it's pretty simple, right? Break and retest level to the downside is 408, upside 410, and then we just go zone to zone from there. Individual names, Apple looks really good. It's an either or setup. You guys can see how this is a previous supply, rejected once, twice, 3 times, break above, retest 4, 5, 6, and even over here, 7, right? When we hold that. This is a huge supply, which was all-time highs up here. We've been rejecting. As you guys can see, we are heading back down into this demand zone. So this is the either or setup. If I were to play this to the upside, I would want to see this hold and preferably break and retest this trend line so we can catch this back up to 196, 198. But as of right now, since the overall market is weak and heading lower, the setup I'll be watching will be a break and retest of this 192 for a move back down into 188. That looks really good for Apple. Like I said, this is also looks like a head and shoulders if you guys see here. You got the left shoulder, got the head, and we got that right shoulder starting to form right there. So let's see what we get with Apple. If you go to Amazon, Amazon's also showing some weakness up here. Looks like we're heading back down into this demand zone at 148 in confluence with this trend line. This could be a potential bounce level. Now, if that doesn't hold, this is also an either or setup. If this doesn't hold and we start breaking below that 148, watch for a break and retest of that trend line and that zone. This will start heading back down to 144, 143. Now, the name that is showing relative strength is Microsoft, right? If you guys go to the weekly, notice how those other names, SPY, QQ, Apple, Amazon, they're showing some weakness. This is a name that is still picking up. It looks like it has a little bit more room to the upside, probably back into all-time highs at 384. I believe that if it does come back up here, I am expecting some type of rejection up here. But for the most part, if the market does show any type of strength, this would be the name to pay attention to, above 377.8 to 380. Above those levels, we should start to see a move into all-time highs at 385. So it's just that relative strength name. NVIDIA and AMD, I'm not too interested in just yet. I'm not seeing really a great setup present themselves. Meta though, Meta does look pretty good. Notice how this was a previous demand here, how we bounce off of it and then we reject it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touches off of this level. And even back here, right, 4 hour, you guys will be able to see we start to hold that level, 6. And here we are again at that level, that 350 area. So Meta also had this rising wedge and this bearish divergence that is starting to break down, right? If this demand zone doesn't hold, Meta should see a nice move back down into 342. Tesla, this is a name that I am kind of interested in. Um, you see how we're starting to get rejected pretty aggressively here on Tesla. We got a strong sell-off from Wednesday through Friday, and we're approaching this 344 level, this demand zone plus this trend line. If this doesn't hold, we are going to start seeing 230s again before we start heading higher. This is a left shoulder ahead. If we get any type of rejection near this 258, 259, that could be a potentially good entry for some downside. Overall, on the monthly chart, Tesla still looks really good. I do see this being a very, very strong name for 2024. Potentially seeing this back into the 300s, 312. So if this is a pullback, I'm going to be looking for some entries, for some leaps or swings back into 300. So it's going to give us a good opportunity for when I do see that setup to enter those swings. I'll make sure to drop it on the next Sunday watch list. Now, Netflix. Netflix is a really good name. I know there's a lot of names that I'm covering right now, but I'm gonna narrow it down to the best looking ones towards the end. But Netflix right here, you guys can see we just broke a key level of 481, and we've been on a strong uptrend since 481 all the way to 500. We're finally getting a pullback to that 481 supply zone, now being used as a demand zone. So we're now starting to hold that level. This is a good either or setup as well. So if I were to see this hold to the upside, preferably a break and retest of that trend line after confirming that this level has held for room back into 500, right? If this 480 level does not hold, then this starts giving us room back down into 470 and really like 450. So this is a good either or setup. You see we had a trend line right here that we just broke below as well. So we'll see what we get with this one. I hope you guys start off the new year really, really well. I hope you guys focus on fixing any issues you guys may have in your trading, whether it's psychology, building better habits, right? Some goals that I am placing for this year is taking a little bit less trades and making sure that they are high probability, right? Out of 20 trading days in a month, not all of them are going to be great. So I want to show up for those days and be a little bit more disciplined and more picky with the days that I am trading, right? That way I can capitalize on two or three setups for the week, one or two setups for the week, make my money on those two setups, and move on to the next week. So just taking it week by week, high probability setup to high probability setup is better than taking 10 to 20 mediocre trades throughout the week. That's one of my big focuses. Also, just holding my winners a lot longer this year, and we'll see how it goes. I see nothing but improvement, and I hope all you guys do gain value from these watches. You guys always feel free to comment, DM me on Instagram _Lex Trades. I did create a course as well that I pretty much cover a lot of my strategies, a lot of psychology. It's very, very helpful. I'm sure a lot of you guys can benefit from it, so I'll link it in the description. But with that being said, I hope you guys have a really good New Year's, and let's start 2024 off really, really strong.